This video is brought to you by the lovely guys over at Robotoys. For all your Hasbro, Takara, third-party and knockoff desires, Robotoys has you covered. For 10% off, use the code DRLOCK 10% off at the checkout. Now on to today's diagnosis. So at this point, we all know that Unique Toys kind of pulled a fast one on most of the collecting fan base, splitting up their Horicons into two packs so that you have to buy 4 figures in order to get the Horicons you ever so desire. I can see why they did it, because it helps them sell more toys, but a part of me is still a bit disappointed. Not because we have to spend more money, but because the other offerings are some of the most disappointing that Unique Toys has put out. Switching things up just a little bit this time, because this time we're going from robot mode to alternate mode, just because the point I want to make mainly applies to the alternate mode of a specific character. So taking a look at these fellas here, they are passable in their robot modes, but pretty darn bland. Starting off with Highbrow here, there's just an abundance of whitish grey plastic, really not enough blue. Having reviewed the Titan's Return Highbrow in the past, the blue was really on show and it was nice and shiny, but they've gone for a very flat plastic look, and also they've gone for not much of the blue, so it just comes across looking a little bit cheap. Of course, the plastic is pretty cheap as well. It's that typical DX9 Unique Toys plastic that Magic Square has kind of doubled down on as of late, and it doesn't really look that great at all. Fortunately, the kibble doesn't get in the way of everything at the back here. They've done a nice way of engineering things. But here's a question. What are these for? What do? They move out of the way and they accomplish virtually nothing. They just get in the way of the articulation a little bit. It's just so bizarre. There's no purpose for them. The main gripe I have to have with the figure is that the waist section is just way too loose. You can hear it rattling around in there. That's a bit of a problem for posability. I'm actually really concerned it's going to break at some point in the future. So, not a great job. Also, not much paint either. You've got yellow here, red here, bit of gunmetal there, bit of paint on the face. That's it. Not much paint at all. On a third-party Legends figure, you really should have a bit more paint. That being said, they have included the gimmick where you can move down the chest and activate his tech specs, but it's nice that they did add that attention to detail. Articulation on the head is non-existent. They've gone back to the square peg there, which is unfortunate, but okay, I suppose. You do get nice ball joints at the shoulders, thigh swivels and ball joints here. Well, the ball joint is the thigh swivel. No wrist, but that's fine. The loose waist swivel, which I've mentioned earlier. Ball joints, and ball joints as well. But again, that piece there just gets in the way. It's so bizarre. I'm not sure why they did such a thing. And Cerebros, or Fortress Maximus has come himself, or whatever you want to call him. Very, very boring again. There's just not much to him. He's got some nice grey plastic. It's a nice dark shade that's good and it matches the paint quite well. And the head sculpt's very nice, but it's just a Cerebros. What are you supposed to do with just a Cerebros? You don't really do much. Unfortunately, you do get hollowness on the back here, but given it's an earlier 3P Legends figure, and well, 3P Legends figures in general have had more hollowness than their, larger figure counterparts, it's understandable. Besides, you do get some really nice posing thanks to it. But they've gone for the really flat aesthetic with not a lot of sculpted detail, and that is fairly disappointing. If you do really want some cool stuff out of it, though, he does have great articulation. The head actually does turn thanks to a mechanism in there, a ball jointed mechanism. It does feel like they intended to have this connect to a larger figure, but it doesn't look like that ever happened. These parts move around in case you want some extra, movement there. You get ball joints. If you so desire, you can actually fold these out and become swords. Or, if you so desire as well, he can actually hold them. It looks ridiculous. He actually comes with his own special ab crunch, but it's below the waist swivel, so it kind of makes it null and void, because then you can end up just using the ball jointed hips instead. Kind of makes the purpose of an ab crunch a bit useless. Also, ball jointed hips, they get the full range of motion, double jointed with ball jointed knees here. So you get that full range of motion as well as the nice ball joint with the thigh swivel. and an ankle tilt that works quite well, so posability isn't a problem with this guy. Size-wise, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Siege Micromaster, a not-so-standard LEGO minifigure, and Crumbs. And as a bonus size comparison, here he is next to Apeface and Snapdragon. Cerebros' transformation has a few new tricks to it, but it's largely based on the G1 toy. You don't need to remove the head, but you can if you want to, and the head does do the standard headmaster thing. It looks fine, I suppose, but we're going to leave it on there for now. So the first thing you want to do is rotate the arms down here and bring out the shoulder pads here, like so. Now I know I've had them incorrectly for the whole review, but they should be facing inward like so, all these little spikes, and then you can rotate them outwards and upwards, and then bend them at the elbow upwards like so. They'll peg in later. Take this backpack section, open up this section, and fold it up and close it. You can then peg that into the ball joint cut. It acts like a slot, keeps the whole thing together. Then use the double hinge to bring these down like so, and they actually peg into the back. There! Now if everything's been lined up properly, it should end up like that, and it's a head. Highbrow is a little bit simpler. You just remove the head, as you do with all headmasters. Bring the legs together, like so, by rotating them 90 degrees and just pegging the whole section, like so. Untabbing the torso, which will allow you to unfold the whole thing and sort of go inside out on itself. Slide the legs into the back there. Rotate the arms around, like so. Take the bicep swivel and rotate it down. Then slide this section down and peg it in by turning it up, like so, the wing section. So bicep swivel down, push in, and peg into the arm. Then this whole thing is held together by the arms clipping on like so. Last but not least, bring this section down, pegs into the waist, open up the cockpit, bring out the nose cone, the headmaster sits in pretty snugly and closes up, and here we have Highbrow. And in a word, these alt modes are very clunky. I think the better of the two is definitely Highbrow. Fortunately, compared to some of the other figures I've reviewed recently, the sculpted detail is there. They've got some lovely sculpted detail, but again, there's just not enough blue. It's just overwhelmed by the grey plastic. Love the fact they've kept the transparent red window there, and they've kept, you know, the viewable Titan Master, well, Headmaster, why am I saying Titan Master? But in general, it's just not that great a figure. For starters, the wingspan is far too small, the blades are far too small here, the back section is far too big. In general, the official Hasbro one did this way better, and considering this is a third-party Legends figure, even if it is Legends, it's third-party, they should be putting in the extra effort because they're not strictly held to a budget. The head's alright though. I mean, it's a bit generic, but it gets the job done. The lovely blue eyes really sell you on it. But what can you use it for? It's just a head on its own. I mean, does it work on the Titan to Turn version? Nope. Well, I guess, does it work on the G1 version then? Thanks, man.
Oh, hey man, come in. Thanks.
Well, that was a f***ing waste of time. So we're left with a useless alt mode. Brilliant. A clunky alt mode and a useless alt mode. That's half the entire transformer there, just thrown to waste. Now for a size comparison, here they are next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Siege Micromaster, a not-so-standard LEGO minifigure, and Crumbs, who surprisingly has a more proportionate alt mode to both of these. Who knew? For all the complaints I have about Apeface and Snapdragon, Highbrow is far worse. It's not that it's complicated, it's just that his build quality isn't very good. He's very wibbly, the transformation is very wibbly. I don't even know why he has these things at the back here. They don't do anything. They're pretty bloody useless. But whatever, maybe there's a hidden purpose for them sometime later down the line, and maybe I haven't discovered it. But on his own, Highbrow is pretty disappointing. On his own, Cerebros is fine. He's an okay Cerebros, but why did they make him? There's no full figure for him, unless you count the upcoming Printformers version that some fan has actually put together using his own time and money, but that doesn't count. Unique Toys never actually produced that. I feel there's potential in a true Legends scale Fortress Maximus. But since Fortress Maximus hasn't come himself, well, there's just no point. There is a point to using the store that I purchased them from, today's sponsor, RoboToys. If you so desire, you can use the code DrLock 10% off at the checkout to get 10% off a single order. I'd recommend leaving it to a really big purchase to get your full value worth out of it. They specialize in Hasbro, Takara, third-party, and knockoffs, so you've got a huge variety of figures to choose from. I wish they had the Mind Wipe and Brainstorm though, because those are the last two I actually need out of the full set. If they had those, I would be really excited, but oh well, they've sold out. Maybe one day I'll be able to get those and truly complete my Unique Toys Legends lineup. But what do I mean by complete? Well, that's because Unique Toys and DX9 have ceased production on Legends figures, instead allowing a new arm to focus on it. Tomorrow we're going into their first ever release, and my birthday present from last year, with Goldbug.